And I think my camera's okay. I'm gonna stop and start my video real quick because my camera has had issues focusing.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Megan Flanagan, and I am a From Within coach. And on today's, let's call it an episode of Coaching Corner, I have the pleasure of having Nicole Iverson here with us to chat about our topic this month, which is imposter syndrome. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for having me. Excited
Oh,
to be
you're
here.
welcome. Glad to have you. Um, I would love for you to just spend a minute to tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and who you love to coach.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole, and I am originally from Texas. I always have to get that in, us Texas women. But I live now in North Carolina, but I see clients really all over the world. And I primarily focus on clients with executive function challenges. So that could be stemming from ADHD, autism, or really just life in general. But mostly my clients come from the ADHD or neurodivergent community.
Nice. And that community seems to be growing more and more, or maybe it's just we're
Thank
becoming
goodness.
more aware.
I think
Everybody.
everyone is becoming more aware. People are becoming, social media and stuff are kind of normalizing some of these experiences, and people are kind of self-diagnosing and then going and getting diagnoses if that's
Yeah.
their yeah.
Yeah. And realizing there's other people out there like them and they're not alone. So that's
Which
huge.
will come up when we move to our topic of the day for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that leads me straight into imposter syndrome. Probably 10 years ago, nobody in general conversation was talking using those words. And even today, I find I will be talking to people outside of the coaching community or the entrepreneur space, and I'll mention imposter syndrome, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Um, so it's a topic today because I think it creeps up so much in the coaching industry, but so much in the entrepreneur space too. And it's creeping up everywhere, just as we just kind of alluded to. But I brought this topic up for January because I think it's a really interesting one to talk about going into the new year. And as coaches, we do come across it a lot when we are coaching people. So I would love if you could share an example of perhaps like when you saw a client and you were kind of like, this may be imposter syndrome, and then kind of um, maybe what the steps are that you like introduce them to what this is, and then how do you handle that, and how do you make your way to the toolbox you have to offer them whatever you offer them, whether it's, a solution, an exercise, something.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so one of the modalities or lenses that I use is something called internal family systems, and sort of colloquial known as parts work. And the general underlying idea here is that we all have many parts of us that surface for various reasons throughout our life and get activated or come about based on events in our lives or moments in our lives. And one of those kind of more famous parts is the inner critic. And I
Mm,
really think of imposter syndrome as being something, inner critic is something kind of most of us can identify with or
absolutely.
immediately have something to grab onto there. And I really think of imposter syndrome as kind of one way that the inner critic surfaces and says, like, I feel like I don't belong here. I feel like I'm faking it. I feel like I'm about to be found out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so with my approach, I do use that parts work language to start getting to know, befriending, and hearing out that inner critic, the part of you that holds this idea that I don't belong here, that I'm an imposter, right? That I'm not belonging, I don't have what it takes, that people are about to find out, right? And I actually first came across imposter syndrome in a New Yorker article that talked about the couple of researchers who first coined the term. And they actually coined the term imposter phenomenon, and then it sort of morphed into imposter syndrome. And they're still around. They actually still are alive and exist 50 years ago. They published this
Wow.
first article in 1978, believe it or not. Yeah. And they're still around, still talking about it. And they, one of the researchers keeps a list of the times that it's referenced in an article or publication. And her list is like 200 pages long at this point. So it definitely, like you said, it is, catching on, becoming more of a topic that people are resonating with. And and yeah, so one interesting thing about that is my approach is, as soon as I realize someone has this imposter part of themselves that's feeling like an imposter, then we go straight to hearing that part of them out and befriending them, hearing their fears, right? What are they worried would happen if they got found out? We don't want to drop the ball. We don't want to be right. We don't want to be found to be incompetent. We don't want to think of ourselves incompetent. We don't want to cause harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we talk more and get to know this part of ourselves, what we find is that the value and the ethic is really healthy, right? This is a healthy ethic to not want to cause harm, and then really deeply rooted in human needs of safety, gratification, and belonging, right? Especially that belonging piece.
Yep.
Right. So we need it. We have to have belonging as humans. We're all wired for belonging, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So then if someone's like, oh my gosh, Nicole, this is great. We've been having this discussion. Do you have any tools, things you share with people, like your go-to, that maybe, whether it's, I know some people will have people read certain things, journal prompts, maybe do some exercises, things like that to get them to, it doesn't go away. Doesn't go away overnight. It's almost like, sometimes I joke with one person, it's because she named this like the choir in her head. And she likes to silence the choir. And every time the choir likes to get up to sing a song, she's like, all right, I've got to go into, step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah, so the first bit there is, as I said, hearing out the choir, right? So instead, before silencing, right, is hearing what's going on here? What do I need to know? What do I need to check in with? What kind of reality check do I need to do, right? And is there a skill set I need to go out and get, right? So that I am more competent in this particular role, right? Whether that's motherhood or professional life or anything at all that we feel imposter like. But especially with my clientele who largely come from some sort of neurodivergent community, there's masking, right? Are familiar with the term masking, right? So it's presenting some way of being that somehow feels a little bit inauthentic or hides a certain aspect of self, right? And neurodivergent people in a neurotypical world have had to develop a sort of masking to just keep going with their day-to-day life. And we all do it to some extent. So we're all familiar with this idea of masking. And really the imposter syndrome stems from the discrepancy between the self concepts and the messaging you're getting from some people, like maybe mom and dad, right? Versus what you're getting from teachers, versus, you're getting this like, well, these people are saying I'm not living up to expectations, and these people are saying I'm exceeding expectations, and who am I to believe here, right? So so we present these masks so that we can move forward with a concept that allows us to belong, right, to our parents,
to fit in and not stand out,
to our teachers in another setting, right, to our colleagues in another setting, to our maybe spouse in another setting, right? And so with my people, with my neurodivergent crew, we talk a lot about making sure that first and foremost that this idea of other people feel this. So if there's nothing else that you take away from what you hear from me today, I would hope that could be a go-to phrase that can pop up, that can rise up and bubble up for you when you have these imposter feeling moments or these inner critic moments that, yeah, other people feel this way too. Like in that New Yorker article I referenced, Maya Angelou and the publishing of her 12th book was like, I'm about to be found out. I'm not a real writer, right? Yeah, so, and a lot of famous people referenced in this book that you
Right.
might have heard of before. So first of all, other people feel this. This is a human thing, right? And the researchers in this article saying that no level of success quells the imposter part's voice, right? So we can't quiet the choir, to use your friend's imagery, by our level of success. That seems to not work from the research. What seems to work is camaraderie, is reaching out and finding community of other people who have the same imposter syndrome feeling. And when you see it in someone else and you're like, gosh, no, they're not an imposter, they're amazing, right? Then you can see it in yourself a little bit more clearly. Sometimes that can open a window.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I would say find trusted people that you can kind of admit this to, right?
Right.
That
Right.
I feel like I'm an imposter here, and allow that to be a form of connection, right? Instead of a form of division and centering into oneself and closing into oneself. And then second, after other people feel this, would be finding ways to unmask, right? So finding, even if it's while you're alone, taking good care of those aspects of yourself that you don't feel yet comfortable bringing to, say, the workplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, embracing the part of you that still feels like a little country bumpkin girl, even though you're now a corporate CEO, right? So finding a
Right.
way to be that person in safe spaces and in comfortable spaces, and nurturing the unmasked self more and more.
I love that. I actually love what you just said there about getting to that place where you can be yourself in places where the go-to is, no, I can't be myself here. I have to be this type of A-type personality or this person. Especially, I think women in corporate, we have been told how we should act for
Yes.
the time we are young girls, where it's like, speak when you're spoken to, do this, do that, like wear pantyhose, and just, all these things are like rushing through my mind as soon as you said that. And it's really empowering. I think it must be empowering for you as a coach to coach somebody, but also as the coachee to receive that message, like, guess what? It's okay to be yourself.
It's not only okay, it's vital.
Yes, yes, exactly. Like, exactly. Yeah. So I really love that. I also love something that's kind of like a theme throughout so much that I do is finding a community, finding your community. I know there's, a lot of a phrase that's out there is find your tribe, but I really believe like finding your community of people, not that they have to be exactly like you, but that they support you and they're your biggest cheerleaders, and they don't have to be family, they don't have to be blood relatives, but they really, they care about you as a person. And I just say they're your biggest cheerleaders, and they're there for you when you have your ups and when you have your downs. And
Yeah.
if you can find those people, you're going to do pretty well, I think, in life. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that support, key word, right? So supports in the people, supports in the form of other tools, right? And getting the supports that you need. So if you need supports to unmask to the degree that it feels comfortable in the workplace, right?
right.
Then you start to believe that you deserve those supports, right? That you wouldn't ask someone who was differently abled, who used a wheelchair or crutches to like, no, you need to take the stairs, right?
Right.
No, we have accommodations. So with my people, with my, especially my neurodivergent people, right? It's ask for the accommodations that you deserve, just like anyone else who has some sort of difference, right?
Right. Another very well put. Um, I could talk for a long time about this, so hopefully we will chat. I know we will chat again, but
Yes.
thank you for just spending a short time in the Coach's Corner talking about imposter syndrome today. And where can people find you?
Yeah, so my website is www.groundedgrowth.guide. And if you search Nicole Iverson, it probably will pop right up.
Okay. And she's also on the FromWithinCoaching.com website under the Trusted Partners page, so you can read more about Nicole there as well and schedule a discovery call. So again, thank you so much, Nicole,
Thank
for
you,
chatting with us
Megan.
today.
Thank you very much. I wish you all well.
Bye-bye.